it's your girl Barbie J, and we are back. We're back with the Equalizer, Season 2, Episode 10, Legacy. That's right, the Queen is back. And I enjoyed this episode because it had as a guest star none other than Jada Pinkett Smith, which was awesome. So let's go on with it because she was wild and crazy in this. I swear. Her character got on my last nerve, but that's how it was going down. And I wouldn't be surprised if she ended up in another episode. Because something that Robin had said to her at the end was something about our little joint venture that we have here is officially over. She said, and we don't ever have to work with each other again. And Jessie said, never say never. And she's right about that. Because that kind of, to me, opens up the door for her to possibly come back. Especially when she won't be able to get that, Robin won't be able to get that help from Bishop anymore. Because he's no longer going to be on the show. But now, before we get into this recap, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please take a moment now and hit that subscribe button, then hit the notification bell and select all. It'll let you know every time Barbie J uploads a new video. Then I ask that you smash that like button, write a comment, and share the video. Okay, that's subscribe, like, comment, and share. Now let's get into this recap of yet another great Equalizer. So it opens up with a scene from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it's May 31st, 1921. And you see a little girl standing in her family house, and somebody throw one of Molotov cocktails into the window of this black family's house. And the little girl screams, and her parents come running down the steps, and the house is on fire. And then some white men come in, and they beat up the father, and they steal an artwork that's over the fireplace, this picture of a black woman. They steal that. The husband grabs his family, and they all run out into the street. So that little girl who was screaming, her name was, I think, Ella. And the person who came to see Robin is her granddaughter now. And this lady who was 7 then is now 107. And one of her dying wishes was to see her mother's face again, which was the last time she saw her when her father was carrying her out of the burning house. She saw the white men stealing her grandmother's painting of her face. And I think her grandmother's name was Ruth. So in that era, what that all was that Black Wall Street. And they said there was 35 blocks of Black Wall Street burned down that day. They were bombing them from the sky and everywhere. So that's why this woman is reaching out to Robin, because the persons who stole it were the Nardoni brothers, and her grandmother never forgot them, who they were. And one day they did an article on these shipping moguls, the Nardoni's family, and they saw the artwork, that picture of I guess that's her great-great-grandmother now, hanging behind him. And that's why they went and got attorneys and the police. They tried to get the artwork back because it belonged to their family. And she feels that the Nardonis built their empire on what was basically stolen from theirs. And they're right about that. So she said right now the painting would be worth millions today, but it wasn't about the painting. It was about her grandmother's dying wish to see her mother's face again. So that's why she was going through all that trouble. And she said her grandma Ella doesn't have much time left. So she wanted to know if Robin could help us. So of course Robin reached out to Detective Dante, who confirmed that a search was done of those people's houses, the Nardonis, because she, all of a sudden they moved that artwork. But they did do a search, and because the Nardonis are big donors, major donors to the Police Benevolent Fund, the police didn't do much of a thorough looking for the artwork. What happened is Nardoni went and packed that thing up and shipped it and moved it somewhere, and they found out that there's this big warehouse where all these rich people move their stuff and properties and stuff where it's not hit by these taxes or something like that, whatever funds or taxes that they get charged. But in the meantime, while that is going on, um, Delilah. Delilah is supposed to be helping her friend write an essay. Her friend had an opportunity to get into a special program at the United Nations, so Delilah was happy to help her. But her friend's name is Vera Franks, and she's known her since she said middle school. But now all of a sudden she has Vera Lopez Franks, like she's Hispanic. And Delilah asked her about that, and she said, "Oh no, that's my middle name because it was my grandfather's last name." So honestly, she really is of Latin descent, but she never uses it. Delilah said, "You always use that. You basically said you were white, and now that it could be of help to you, you want to use the Lopez." So Delilah told her she's not sure if she's okay with that. But after talking to Aunt Vi later, Aunt Vi lets her know, well, she's not lying about her heritage. She is Latina. And so Delilah thought about it for a minute. She thought about it. So she reaches out to Vera to make amends. And Vera later shows up at her house and they talk. And she admits that she was feeling some kind of way, kind of weird using that name. But after Delilah had said something to her and called her on it, she spoke to her family because she was wondering about who she really was and why no Spanish was ever spoken to her, or how come they never celebrated the Spanish holidays and stuff. And she said after her and her family, after they got over themselves, she started learning more about her heritage and her grandfather's, and she learned so much more, and she was thankful to Delilah for calling her on it. And she said that's what she wants to write her essay on, I guess, about her finding out who she really is and her true heritage. So Delilah said she would help her with that, and that's how that worked out. So that was great. Now back to Robin. This place where these rich people hide their artwork and different things or whatever of value to avoid paying these taxes. That place is like tighter than Fort Knox. They got all kinds of stuff going on in there. And she's like the only person who could help her because she can't get in there on her own. And doing it the right way would take so much longer. And this lady doesn't have, Miss Ella doesn't have much time left. She's 107 and she's not going to, it doesn't look like she's going to be lasting long. So she said there's only one person they could call, which is the Worm, which the Worm is Jada Pinkett's character, whose real name on the show is Jessie Cook. Okay, so I'm going to keep calling her the Worm. So she has to find out where the Worm is. And she ended up locating the Worm. And the Worm got this thing with blowing up places and starting little bombs to distract from her stealing and stuff. She's really good at sneaking in and sneaking out of places. So Robin finds her and brings her over to I'm going to call it the Bat Cave where Harry and Mel are. And she said, "Oh, this your little crew, huh?" But Robin said that this girl is a little selfish, that all she cares about is herself. And she basically won't do a job unless there's something in it for her. She I guess it's not all about doing something nice for somebody. So there's always a catch, it seems like. You think she's on your side and y'all going to get something and she'll detour and do something else, which is what she ended up doing to Robin. But it's funny, she has a photographic memory. She remembers everything up in her head. She doesn't write anything down. And Harry wanted to know how does she know all this stuff about the inside of that warehouse and the plates and all the different security things that's going on. So she told him she happened to bump into Mr. Nardoni in Santorini, and she said they were bumping all night. She said he couldn't stop talking about his impenetrable system. She said, "Boy, you do sure love chatting it up about your equipment." I was like, she's so crazy. So they made plans. They made plans to be the first ones to break into there and get that art. Well, look for that artwork because they feel that's where it was. And they was correct. It was in that warehouse. But what happened is, first they needed to find out a way to get it. It was voice activated, whereas they needed a particular voice string, and they monitored, and if that voice didn't match, you couldn't get in. So they found out who the person was that they knew that would have access in there, and they had Mel get dressed up and go to this art show where the guy just happened to be and was going to be, and what they needed him to do to say certain words so they could get him to pronounce certain vowels and things and put a sentence together to, I guess, fake it that it's his voice. So here's the funny part, y'all. They did this in Harlem. They actually, the place where the art gallery was, that they used, was my friend Doji's art gallery. Doji Badima. We both mentored kids together and were coordinators in the program at the same time. We used to do a lot of the training of the mentors. So I was sitting there watching it going, that looks like Doji's gallery, and they was moving around in there. They had Mel meet him. And get him to say certain vowels. They needed an owl, so they had her. She stepped on his foot. He said owl. There were certain things like that they needed him to do. And that's what they did, and that's how they got in. But shout out to my friend Doji Badima for having his show in the video. In the show, his shop was also in Harlem, the show Harlem. He's been in a lot of different things they use his gallery for, different movies. So I'm happy for him. He's staying in business during this pandemic, which is great. Anyhow, I digress. They work it out that Mel drives them in a truck. They use that voice activated thing or whatever. Robin and the worm are in a crate, and she drops the crate off, and then I guess someone in the warehouse moved the crate somewhere, and they thought it was going to be on a certain side of the floor, but it wasn't. It was on another area. So because the worm had the photographic memory, remembered stuff and the tiles and everything, she was able to get them through it from one side to the other, but not before. She was supposed to bring a card key. She didn't bring a card key. They had to beat up one of the guards to get a card key. They were arguing about that. And then there were certain tiles you could step on. If you stepped on the wrong one, the alarm system would go off. So she did something and distracted Robin for a minute and turned around and ran and stepped on all these different tiles. And Robin's like, wait a minute, why'd you do that? And she was like, I'll be right back. And she said, I knew it. She went in there to rob and get in another part of the area to get some earrings that matched these expensive earrings that matched a necklace that she had stolen. And she's like, see, I knew it. You can't never do anything just for yourself. So what happened was another guard came, and Robin was stuck there on the tiles because she didn't know which ones to step on. So she had to stay where she was. And another security guard came, and she was about to hit him, but the worm came up and hit him behind him. But she said, see, you delayed us from getting this. Now let's hurry up. So they go and looking, and they digging through all those boxes and realize those are fake. A lot of the artwork in there, the majority of it was fake art. It wasn't real. It wasn't worth millions. And they were trying to figure out why that was happening. But as they continued to open the crates, they finally found the one that they were looking for that belonged to that black family. And at that time, one of the security guards woke up and kicked his flashlight down the hallway so to set off the alarm. And the alarm was set off, and she couldn't get the artwork. And Worm kept telling Robin, you gotta go, you gotta go. Robin was so pissed. They made it out of there. They were shooting at them and everything. And they drove the van and bust through the gate and made it out, all of that. And then Robin got pissed and kicked the worm out of her car. But she saw that the worm had stole some earrings, but she got them from her. I don't know. Somehow they got close to each other, and she pickpocketed the worm and got the earrings. And she said, all of this for what? These earrings? And the worm was like, how'd you get those from me? And she said, I hope it was worth it. And she threw them at her and told her to get out. She said, you're so selfish and you don't think about anybody else but yourself, And she let her know this lady's dying wish. She don't have much time. And that's all she needed was to see her mother's face. And you and your selfish self. So that's how that went down. And Robin, she's like, well, things always work out. Something will work out. She's like, what? She said, in time. She said, this lady doesn't have time. But I forgot to say one thing. Robin did go in the meet with Santoni. Santoni, Lord help me, Nardoni, pretending to be an art collector and wanting to collect something and have, but she was basically in his house trying to look around to see if the art was in there. And she noticed, she saw the frame that it came in, but he replaced that picture with another picture, to cover up when the black lady sent the police there looking for the stuff. So that's what they did. But let's go back to this part, to the end, where we have Robin and Mel. They learned from Harry that Nardoni got spooked with that whole alarm going off, so everybody was moving their stuff out of there somewhere else and putting them in trucks because Harry has access to the cameras, so he could see what's happening, in different people's camera systems. And so they went there. Mel and Robin figured they would go and hold up the truck. They went at gunpoint and got them, was gonna try to see if they could steal the stuff back, find that artwork and steal it. But what happened is they had the drivers, chained them to the steering wheel and everything. And when they went back to the back of it, there was these guys. One of them was the guy who was in the art gallery. That was him, that whose voice they used, and two other thugs or three other thugs or whatever. So they took them to meet Nardoni, and Nardoni recognized Robin, and the other guy recognized Mel from the art gallery. And Nardoni said to put him in a hole and kill him and get rid of them because he was glad that nobody would be looking for them because all they was doing is working for that little old lady and he didn't care. He said, so if you die, nobody would be looking for you. So when they took them at gunpoint, the worm had gotten there. I knew she was going to try to do something good or whatever. And she bust one of the guys upside the head, the one from the art gallery. And the other two, Robin and them beat up. And Nardoni heard it. And he came out there with his gun. He heard it. And he came out there with his gun. And when he opened his door to his office, there was 3 guns pointing at him. Worm had one, Robin had one, Mel had one. And so they tied him to a chair and they told him all of this could have been avoided if he would have given that art back when the family asked for it. But they said, but that's not the way your family does things, is it? They just steal stuff from people. So he's like, you'll never get away with this. And they were like, oh, yes, we will. And what they did was call the police and said, there's a fire. And he said, what's going on? And they started burning his house down. They said, your ancestors burned another family's life to the ground, and now you need to know just how it feels. And he's like, what? You gonna kill me over a painting? They said, well, we're not gonna let you burn alive. I tied loose knots. It'll take you about 5 minutes to wiggle out of that and time for you to get out and stuff and maybe save a couple of your artworks or something like that. But then she said, and you could watch as your house burns with all its prized possessions. But that's okay. Mel said, but that's okay because they never really belonged to you anyway, did they? Mm-mm. He was like, I can't believe it. He started begging to get out. I'll pay you. I'll pay you. And they left. They walked out and left. And of course, Worm took a valuable piece of art, Biosky or something like that. It's called a Basquiat or something. And she took it off the wall. She couldn't help herself. So the next thing we see is Detective Dante pulling up in a truck, and on the truck is a note that says, "Open me and connect the dots." And inside was these 4 bad guys. So I don't know who exactly those guys were, but then they show Robin and the Worm, or Jesse now I'll call it that. They in a bar watching the news, and they see him on the news saying in a joint investigation with the NYPD, the FBI had just arrested shipping tycoon, Roger Nardoni and stuff with multiple charges of money laundering and bribery with illegal shipping of toxic waste. They were taking that waste and dumping it into third world countries, causing cancer and killing people, all of these other places. It was terrible. And then they also said this happens after the home was struck by a mysterious fire. So Robin asked Worm why. Why did she come back for her? And she said, because you never risk your neck for anyone unless you're getting paid. And Worm said, I didn't come back for you. I came back for that Basquiat, So they laughed, and then they made their way to bringing that artwork to the family. And they showed the family showing the artwork to the 107-year-old grandmother, and she sees the painting and she touches it and she says, "Mama, Mama." She sees her mother. I was like, oh my God, that was so beautiful. And one of the relatives was crying, and my eyes all teared up and everything. So it ended, of course, it always ends on a good, no, it doesn't always end on a good note, but this time it did. So y'all let me know what y'all thought about the show. Let me know if I missed anything. And I'll see you in the next video. It's your girl Barbie J saying peace.